Yeah, I can start. Good morning. Yep. Okay, great. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Diversifying the Digital Historical Records First Community Archives Forum. I'm Michelle Caswell. I'm an assistant professor of archival studies at UCLA and one of the co-founders of the South Asian American Digital Archive. I am so excited to have everyone in the same room today. You've all passed the first test of finding the GSE&IS building in Los Angeles on campus, and I'm thrilled you're here. You've come from far and wide, close and near. And we have here today community archives practitioners from all over the country. We have a participant Skyped in from Croatia later on. And we have many community archives practitioners from Southern California and students from UCLA here today. It's really a dream come true to have all of you here in one space. Today's forum is hosted by myself and by Burgess Jules, who's the university archivist at UC Riverside. And the event is made possible by the generous support of the Institute of Museum and Library Services, for which we are extremely grateful. Today's forum will focus on defining community archives, specifically the ways community archives define themselves. Community archives are diverse in several ways, including the ethnic, racial, cultural, and gender communities they represent, as well as by size, organizational structure, and collaborations. This forum will be an opportunity to discuss the diverse types of community archives that exist in the US and to learn about their history, work, challenges, and possibilities. We hope today will be a vital first step in laying the groundwork for developing effective, collaborative, and sustainable networks that can support the needs and growth of community archives. We also hope today will be an opportunity for community archives practitioners to discuss the possibilities and challenges of participation in a national strategy for access to digital cultural heritage materials. We hope to address today what I think is a tension between the autonomy and independence of community-based archives and the potential for their participation in a larger national effort or framework to make histories of underrepresented communities available digitally. So for me, some important questions to think about today are how can community archives maintain autonomy while participating in larger structures digitally? Should they participate in such digital structures, and if so, on what terms? I ask you to think about these questions throughout the day as we listen to our two fabulous keynote speakers and the rest of the panelists. At the end of the day, starting at 3:45, we will open the floor up to have a discussion to get your input on these very questions. I'm of the opinion, as Joyce and Jared and I discussed yesterday, that those who are most vulnerable have the most to contribute to the conversation. So if you're feeling shy or left out, or if something seems missing from the conversations, please do not hesitate to make your voice heard. We really want to hear from you in particular. So before I introduce my co-organizer, Burgess Jules from UC Riverside, and the principal investigator of this project, Kara Oldage from the Amistad Center, I have a few housekeeping points. So all of the presentations will be in this room. At 12:30, lunch will be provided in the main open area of the second floor. It's called the second floor salon, which is a pretty grandiose term for what it actually is. But there will be lunch available up there. Right in front of this building, so right out that way, is a cafeteria that has many different food options, as well as a cafe called Northern Lights, if you need stronger caffeine than what is provided here. We do have coffee, we'll have coffee throughout the day, but if you require espresso, that's where you should go. Please make sure to sign in at the front, even if you are not registered. We really want an accurate account of who's here today. There's a men's restroom right outside this room, just around the corner. There's a women's restroom around the corner, so if you go out and to the left, around. And there's a single stall, all gender restroom next door on the first floor of Charles Young Research Library. So if you were to leave the building and go out that way in the first floor there. So there was some confusion over parking, and I apologize for that. If you parked in lot 3, and didn't pay for parking, I worried that you might get ticketed. So what you would have to do is first stop at an information booth at a different parking lot and pick up a pass and then go back to parking lot 3, or just keep your receipt if you paid for parking in parking lot 3. We have maps at the registration table. If you have any questions about that, please let me know. I'd also like to introduce my 3 amazing graduate student researchers who have helped me organize the event today. Joyce Gabiola, right here, Grayson Grillmeyer, and Jimmy Zavala, who I think is right outside at the registration desk. If you have any questions about anything today, feel free to ask them or ask me, and I want to publicly thank them for their labor in making today possible. The event today is being live streamed. We will not field any questions via live streaming though. We're also recording the event and hoping to make digital recordings of it available through the UCE Scholarship Open Access repository. So stay tuned for that. We encourage Twitter conversation about the event using the hashtag DDHR1. If you are presenting, we would like you to sign a release form. So please see Grayson or Joyce to sign that form. I'd now like to introduce Burgess Jules from UC Riverside, who's the co-organizer of the event and really the mastermind behind this whole project.
Right. Really? Just right at my face. Okay. Thank you. I just got off the road. I left Riverside at 5:30. I got there at 8, so need to get myself together. So thanks everyone for being here, especially the folks who drove in. I know the traffic around here is really crazy, so we appreciate you making it and joining us today. I just want to thank take this opportunity to thank our partners on this project. We brought together a really impressive group of folks, and we've been working over the past year to bring this all together, and we're really excited to see this day happen. So I'd like to thank Dr. Michelle Caswell and Samit Malik, who are the co-founders of the South Asian American Digital Archive, Dino Robinson, who is the founder of the Shorefront Legacy Center in Evanston, Illinois, not in Chicago, Dr. Kara Oledge and Christopher Harder from the Amistad Research Center in New Orleans, Dr. Kim Kristen Withy, the creator of the awesome CMS Mukadu platform, and good friend Tamar Evangelista Doherty. We all worked very hard on this. I'm really thankful for all of us coming together and making this happen. As Michelle already did, I also want to thank IMLS for supporting this series of forums. This is the first of 4 meetings we're going to be hosting over the next year, where we'll explore ideas around supporting the growth, sustainability, and innovation around community-based archives. Besides being funded by IMLS, these forums were also inspired by the launch of their, I see some of my fellow graduate students back there. These forums were also inspired by the launch of their National Digital Platform Initiative. And for those of you who haven't heard of it, the National Digital Platform was launched by IMLS a couple years ago as part of their National Leadership Grants Program. IMLS describes the National Digital Platform as a way of thinking about and approaching the digital capability and capacity of libraries and museums across the US. It is a combination of software applications, social and technical infrastructure, and staff expertise that provide digital content, collections, and related services to users in the US. They go on to say that as libraries and museums increasingly use digital infrastructure to provide access to digital content and resources, there are more and more opportunities for collaboration around tools and services that they use to meet their users' needs. It is possible for each library and museum in the country to leverage and benefit from the work of other organizations and shared digital services, systems, and infrastructure. So this is a really impressive initiative, obviously by IMLS, and I think it allows for a lot of creativity in the types of projects and innovation it can support. But we also saw the potential for this initiative to prioritize the supporting of the usual suspects, right, in the traditional library, archives, and museum spaces. And we wanted to do our part to make sure that didn't happen. We wanted an opportunity to have conversations about the value of inclusivity in major initiatives like the National Digital Platform. So these forums are about including non-traditional cultural heritage spaces in the national conversation about digital collections, infrastructure, innovation, and collaboration. And we're thankful that IMLS and the reviewers saw value in our proposal. So there are three main goals of the forums. One is to create a space for critical conversations, to develop effective and sustainable networks, and to increase collaboration with national digital initiatives. And we're going to try to cover, some aspects of all of these in each of the four forums. But each of the meetings over the next year are going to be themed, and the theme for today's meeting, as you can see, is up there. Yep, definition, commonalities, and divergences. What are community archives? Who came up with that title? So we're really excited that you're joining us here today. I just wanted to give a little bit of background about why we're doing these. And as Michelle said, follow us on Twitter. Use DDHR1 if you're tweeting about us. It's our way to keep track of the four forums. So DDHR1, the next one will be 2, 3, and 4 as we go along. So thank you and welcome.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay, so we now have 2 keynote talks that I'm really excited about, followed by a Q&A for both of the talks. So if you have a question for Jen after Jen's talk, just hold it till both keynotes and we'll take all of the questions then. So I'm thrilled to introduce our first keynote speaker, Jen LaBarbera. Jen LaBarbera is the head archivist at Lambda Archives of San Diego, the LGBTQ community archives for San Diego and Northern Baja California. Prior to entering the library archives field, she spent 6 years working as a political organizer for reproductive justice and brings that intersectional lens to the work of collecting, preserving, and teaching the LGBTQ history of our region. Her research and professional interests include queer and women's archives, encouraging meaningful engagement between social justice activists and archives, and the practical application of critical theories in archives. I first met Jen last spring at the Litwin Books Gender and Sexuality and LIS Forum, and I knew then that I wanted as many people as possible to hear what she has to say. So the title of her talk today is Out of the Box, How Community Archivists Can Engage and Inspire Today's Activists. So thank you, Jen.
All right, so first I'm going to apologize for the Trump-like sniffles that you're going to hear. My body has decided to develop some seasonal allergies now that I live in Southern California, so I'm also going to see one of So I am the head archivist at Lambda Archives of San Diego. Like Michelle said, we collect, preserve, and teach the LGBTQ history of San Diego, the San Diego region. So that's not just San Diego, that's the greater San Diego County, and that is also Northern Baja, so down into Tijuana as well. So today I am going to talk about how archives can be a resource for activists. So how that's different from the way that we traditionally think about our archives. So to talk a little bit more though about Lambda. So we have been around since 1987. So we are entering our 30th year in a few months, which is exciting and also surprising. As many of you know who have been in community archives, it's always kind of a how do we continue? I don't actually know. It's kind of a constant surprise that we've continued to keep this going for 30 years. And also that I'm actually a paid staff member at a community archives is, I know, also pretty rare. And so we do have a good amount of history of our region. It's pretty broad. We do have our own gaps, of course. We have LGBTQ histories, but that does tend to focus on gay men, per usual. So we've really tried to ramp up our collecting areas in collecting records from people of color, which is, as you know, in Southern California, that is almost the majority of us here, and from women and from trans people and from our bride community, which is actually really powerful and really huge in San Diego. And so our community, as a community archive, we are invested in and indebted to the community that we serve and that we collect. So I'm going to talk about kind of this different idea of what we do. So we do the traditional reference service. We work with scholars and other folks who come in to write papers, to write books, to do research for scholarly purposes. But I want to talk about what else we could do and how else we can engage in this larger movement for social justice. So how can we be a resource for activists? How can we be a resource for organizers and for people who are on the ground doing social justice work? And so these ideas are especially relevant, I think, to community archives. I think we're uniquely positioned to really give that back to our community. We are in this space where this is distracting me, not with the computer. So we're in this space where we are already here, we're already there in these organizations that are doing this work. And so I think we're really uniquely positioned to do that. And so these ideas, though, can be more extended to more traditional archives that live in institutions and universities, and to other archives that straddle that line, to community archives that have become part of universities and who have had to, in order to sustain themselves, have had to kind of give themselves over to larger entities, but still maintain that kind of community focus. So we traditionally think that archives are here to be documentarians, to be these passive receptors of history. And I think that is important, and that is, of course, always going to be part of our role. And I'm not saying that we should not do that, because that's necessary and in our mission. But we also can really collaborate with these communities as we're collecting materials from them. And this isn't, of course, to assume that scholars who use our archives are not already activists. A lot of them are. So it's not so much about the labels that we put on our users. It's more about the things that our users are going to do with our materials. And then I think in this crowd, this may not actually need to be said. And I think that we are slowly moving towards the day where I don't feel like I need to give this disclaimer. But this is all, of course, premised on the assumption that archives are not neutral. We are not neutral repositories of history, and that's okay, that's good, that's real. Archives, after all, do not exist without archivists. Archivists are human beings that live in a world that is not a vacuum. And as humans living in a particular space in a particular time, it is impossible for us to be objectively neutral. So our goal as archivists should not be to be neutral. And I think that letting go of that idea, that goal, actually opens us up to some really powerful possibilities. So if, as archivists, it is our job to preserve this full record of our history, that means it is also our job to lift up the voices of people who are often not reported, who are often written out of history intentionally or forgotten unintentionally. And that in itself is a form of activism, is a form of social justice work. Our social justice responsibility, though, especially for those of us in community archives, especially in community archives that collect materials and represent marginalized communities, extends beyond that as well. We're not just these passive recipients of historic material. We don't have to be these static repositories of the stuff that makes up our history. We have so much more potential than that, and we have a responsibility, I think, to be a resource for our communities as we work towards social justice. And so I'm going to take a sip of water, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about my trajectory, how I got to here. So I came to this field from the world of political nonprofits, where I was a community organizer. Do you remember when calling Obama a community organizer was like the worst insult a presidential candidate could throw? Wish that was days. So I worked out hard, as a lot of organizers do, and that burnout was compounded by usually being the only brown queer woman in the room. Naturally, when I burned out, slowly and then all at once, I jumped ship for the less political world of libraries and archives, and where I would definitely never again be the only brown queer woman in the room. I'll acknowledge I've used that joke before, so it has a little bit of a sad, funny kick to it. So before I burned out, though, I really thought that organizing and activism would outline the entire trajectory of my working life. Loved that I could almost always bring my whole progressive self to the office, and working directly in social justice, at least in my little corner of that world, meant that I felt intimately connected to and responsible for my communities, women, survivors, poor people, people of color. I was an organizer in college. I mean, my organizing first started when I was about 8. I created an organization called Save the Earth and Animals. Our main campaigns involved getting our parents to recycle more and then got more cuts from shelters. I'm still working on that last part. My target has shifted to my partner. And then, I was an activist always. It's in my blood. So I was an organizer in college. I helped lead the fight against making our women's college a co-ed institution. We failed, and I then transferred to Smith College. And then working to make our campus at Smith actually serve survivors of sexual assault. I ran fundraising campaigns for our local Planned Parenthood, ran campaigns to help support access to abortion, all while I was in college and undergrad. I spent most of my career in political nonprofits working directly for reproductive rights organizations and campaigns, quietly pushing them from the inside to try to get them to adopt more justice-focused lens, so they could actually talk about women of color and queer people and trans people. I started this work where any queer brown woman would feel the most comfortable in the very red states of South Dakota, Missouri, and Kansas. So I worked on 2 different abortion rights campaigns in South Dakota, then moved on to work as a community and political organizer at Planned Parenthood in both Missouri and Kansas, yes, at the same time. And then from there, I trekked across the longer flat state of Kansas to work for a few years at NARAL Pro-Choice, Colorado. Again, working to make a historically white-led reproductive rights organization into a reproductive justice organization. Colorado is where I ultimately burned out on organizing as a career and escaped to the MLIS program at the University of Denver. But Colorado is also where I really grew into my own as an organizer and as somebody working for social justice, both in and outside of traditional organizations. And I really started to understand and value the ways that we could be stronger and more strategic if we actually understood our history, if we can actually use that to bring ourselves together. So when I came to the archives field, I came with all of this experience of being an organizer and of being an activist. Not just professionally, although that's where a lot of my understanding of social justice and community organizing really grew and blossomed. But I have been organizing for as long as I can remember, going back to that 3rd grade summer environmental campaign that I ran. So activism is in my blood, and it's the first place that felt like home to me. And despite burning out professionally, being an organizer is not an identity I can shake off. When I was a professional organizer, I spent a lot of time trying to uncover the history of my organizations, being frustrated by knowing I was essentially recreating a wheel that was lost when we didn't preserve it and make it easily accessible. And then I seeking out older activists for their fleeting and often fragile memories of what they had done before, what had worked before, and what hadn't worked before. Always an archivist before I even actually understood what that meant. So I'm here today and I inhabit both of those identities fully, both an organizer and an archivist. Making this connection then between archives and activism and organizers seems not just necessary but also natural. I really needed history and archives when I was an organizer, and I need community and organizing now that I'm an archivist. These things are completely inseparable for me, and I think there's a lot of power and possibility in that connection. I also want to call in here my other identities because I think it's relevant to why I can't separate archives and activism. So it's easier, I think, to talk about neutrality or to separate a profession as an archivist from an identity as an organizer if you sit in a more privileged identity. You can be an archivist here and then an activist after work, and I cannot do that. So I do have a foot in some of those more privileged spaces. I am educated with the degrees and the crushing debt to prove it. I am cisgender. I do not have any physical disabilities. I also have my foot in more oppressed and or invisible spaces as well. I am brown, I am mixed race, I am a woman, I am queer, I am a femme, I have an invisible disability, and working class. As someone that resides in a marginalized and oppressed space, I can't just leave my activism at the door because it's quite literally a matter of survival for me. And that necessity, that natural combination of my organizer part and my archives profession, opens up a lot of really rich and really potent possibilities. So I think that community archives really are, and it's like really are especially positioned for this. So a lot of us who work in community archives do embody these spaces and do naturally come to this work with some level of understanding of activism and of organizing. And so I want to talk to you about this idea that my partner helped me come up with last night that we're going to call longitudinal intersectionality. You can also call it cross-generational intersectionality. It's just a phrase that gets my super nerd brain all kinds of giddy. So as archivists, we can really dig into this theme, right? So in community archives, it's our job to collect stories from people that are not rich and famous. It's our job to collect the historic evidence of local activists, of community leaders at all levels of leadership, from the women who ran a lesbian feminist bookstore, to a group of friends that started our LGBTQ community center, to all the way up to our community's first openly gay state legislators and state senators. Our archives are so much deeper than just the big names you might expect to find. And the stories that live in our documents are so much more complex than the simplified narratives that get tossed around because it's easier than just communicating a deep nuance. So we have these materials and the ability to weave together different movements, right? We have these different organizers from different decades in the feminist movements, feminists and LGBTQ people in the struggle against racism, and in and among different factions of our movements, like our radical lesbian feminists and our transgender foremothers, and the radical fairies and the gay men that fought back against the disease and the political structure that was killing them. And we can bring all of these different stories into one space and acknowledge all of the privileges and oppressions that each of these leaders and organizers have faced. And we can put all of them on a table in our reading room and have them all sit there all at once. This is what I mean when I talk about longitudinal intersectionality. So we also have a responsibility and the power to correct this dominant narrative of history that, for example, tells us that our leaders have always been gay white men. Because these trans women of color, these lesbian feminists, and dykes and femmes and drag queens and butches and fairies and genderqueer people have always been part of our community. We have the documents to prove it, we have the photos to prove it, we have these stories, and these people have already been leading in a million different ways and in a million different places. We're still collecting a lot of those stories too, but we have so many of them, and we need to be able to put them on the table for researchers, for scholars, and for activists as well. And so through our archives, we can teach, and organizers will be able to then deeply understand lessons from these often ignored voices, right? We give these lessons and this wisdom and these voices back to these organizers and movement leaders. And then these folks that we're giving them to can bring them back to the tables that they sit at, and as they work towards a long arc towards justice. And so there's a lot of different ways that we can do this. We can do it in the traditional ways of creating an exhibit and having people come see it and having people read the things that we write in our exhibit, the whole placards, which sometimes happens. And so we can do that. We can bring our materials from our archives into an exhibit and just put them up for people to come look at. That's the traditional way that we've done it. It's great. It's one way of getting those stories out there. We can also do outreach events. We can actually just bring people into the archives for speakers, for folks who've lived through it as kind of like an on-stage oral history. And that's a little bit more traditional too, right? We've done that. We do outreach events. We do instruction. This is what we do as trained archivists. We can also do something different though. So what if we brought activists into the archives? What if we, rather than focusing our reference on people who are writing papers about what the LGBTQ community looked like in 1988, which is important, those papers need to be written, those books need to be written, people need to read those. But what if we also then focused on using these materials for folks who are on the ground now? What if we brought the leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement into the archives, and we brought out our materials on Black queer people who have really led in San Diego, who've already been there and been doing this for years. And they could look at the photos and they could look at the flyers and they could feel that feeling that you get when you go into the archives and you see a really powerful piece of material. You can see that, and you can have that feeling for our activists, and that is powerful. And that is a thing that should be, I think, required to do for the people in our community. When we collect materials from social justice movements, we can't just hold them and then hope for the best. We have to actually collect them and then also pay it forward. Give it back to the people who are creating these materials and let them actually gain inspiration from it. Let them build strategy from it. As an organizer who's always looking for different ways to think about things and different things to do because the things we were doing weren't working. I was working in abortion rights. The things we were doing were not working. And so what else could we have done? What else could we be doing? And when, as an organizer, when your traditional avenues are not giving you that kind of inspiration and that kind of new way of thinking, where else can you go? Why are they not coming to our sites? Why can't we bring ourselves to them? So we have so much in our stacks that can be so powerful and so useful for activists who want to work for social justice. And I think that's something that we should be required to do. Assuming, of course, that labor is not free, and we have to also have time to do this. But I do think it is a responsibility of archives. So this summer we got this manual from an organization in San Diego called the Blood Sisters. It was formed by the lesbian committee of the LGBT political group. And they created this dedicated blood bank for gay men because they had stopped gay men from donating blood, and there was a huge shortage, and so many of these women's friends and brothers were dying of AIDS. So they created this organization. They all came together. They had 200 plus lesbians just come and give blood on one single day, and they were one of the first of their kind to do that around the country. And so other women from around the country in the LGBT community started contacting them. They started asking, how did you do this? What can we do? So the San Diego Blood Sisters created a manual, and they sent that out to other cities. They sent that out across the country to other groups who wanted to also do the same thing that they had done. They were sharing their best practices, the ways that they had succeeded, the ways that they had failed, and they were sending that out. And we received this summer that manual from one of the founders of the Blood Sisters, and just looking through that and seeing and that emotional response of looking through this thing and seeing the stories of what these women had lost that inspired this action was really powerful. And I also want to talk about, not all of our stories in our archives are downloads, so not all of them are really depressing and sad. A lot of them are, because as a marginalized community, we have gone through a lot of trauma. So this summer, after Orlando, after that community trauma that came in the middle of our Pride celebrations around the country, we could still find some bit of solace in looking at our history. So we have these photos, right, of Pride celebrations in 1987. And one of them is a circle of friends laughing and hanging out together at Pride. The next one is a photo of our gay family stitching together a piece of the AIDS quilt. And the next one is a march on City Hall with crosses to demand action for people living with HIV and AIDS. So our history shows us that we're capable of holding multitudes as a community. Our celebrations have always also been protests. Our festivals are also memorials. We've come from all this great pain and great joy and great adversity and great resilience. And so when 49 mostly Latinx members of our LGBTQ community this summer were killed, it gutted us. The wave of trauma that swept across the country from Florida to Southern California hit us hard, and as community archivists, we're responsible for holding that community trauma in our stacks. This is one of our most important jobs, to hold that trauma and keep it safe and secure. It's also our job, though, to hold the resilience and the strength and the bonded community that arises from these traumas, and to offer those records of resilience and strength back to our communities when they need it. I was asked to speak at the Pride celebration this summer, and I offered that back to our community. I was able to bring these stories of how we've always held celebrations that were also protests and festivals that were also memorials. We've always done that because this is what we do as an LGBTQ community. And these historic documents and photos, they hold information, yeah, but they also hold inspiration and strength, and that is a resource that really is just as precious as information. And as I was writing this speech and doing some excavation of why this matters to me, I remember this box that came to us from Mills College when I was in undergrad at my first women's college before I transferred. So in 2004, the Board of Trustees at Wells College in Central New York made the unilateral and I still believe very ill-advised decision to transition Wells, which was one of the oldest remaining women's colleges in the country, to a co-ed institution. As students, we brought back, we held rallies outside the board meeting where they made the decision, then they announced it. We took over the administration building. We held sit-ins, we staged picket lines, and we wrote petitions, and we held more rallies, we refused to go to class. We pulled out every organizing tool we could think of, and on around the third day, when we were all exhausted and sleep deprived and subsisting somehow on coffee and Red Bull and cold pizza, we received this package from some students at Mills College. It was essentially an archives in a box. There were materials from their own. They were successful protests against going co-ed. There were t-shirts, there were protests on the lyrics, there were flyers, there were lists of chants and bigger posters and letters of encouragement from current Mills students. And in that box, as organizers of this protest that was dwindling and losing steam, we found encouragement and we found strength. We found inspiration, and we could place ourselves in this larger picture in the greater story of this grit and strength that is encouraged and built in places like women's colleges. And we ultimately lost that fight, and I transferred to another women's college. But I don't doubt that the materials in that box had a lot to do with our resilience and our ability to hold on to that administrative building for another 2 days. And so this is a measurable impact as well, right? We often like to measure impact by the easy to quantify metrics. How many researchers came through our doors, how many reference requests have been answered, how many papers or books get published using our materials. But as anyone who's spent any time in an archive can tell you, the papers and written information you create from a collection of LGBTQ members of the military, for example, are only part of the experience of doing research. We can't easily measure the emotional impact of reading letters from a desperate service member who's losing his case and is about to be discharged from the military. And I'm like, no. We can't quantify the emotions that come when you look at this notebook that we have from Gary Cheatham, who ran Auntie Helen's, which is a laundry service that also became a meal service and a delivery service for people with AIDS in San Diego. And in it, he lists names and addresses and phone numbers of his clients and notes on what to do, pick up laundry, call mom, not dad if something happens. And then usually in a different colored pen, he records a different date, followed by rest in peace, love you babe, and see you on the other side. We can't usually measure the emotional effect of seeing this dedication and devastation on paper, but it's a resource too. It's what makes us valuable, and that goes beyond our traditional user base of scholars and researchers. And so this can, to talk a little bit more about like what this can look like. I know I'm getting close-ish. So I'm close to that. I went to undergrad at Smith College. The Sky Smith Collection is currently working on this pilot program with Gloria Steinem and Wilma Mankiller. They created the Gloria and Wilma School for Organizers. So they have funding to bring organizers and activists from women's movements around the country to the archives for X number of days every year. This year was their second pilot year. It's an incredible idea, and it's an incredible, it's a pilot, so they're working bugs out. But it has so much potential. And a couple of friends of mine went as organizers and activists that were invited to Smith for this program. And the Sky Smith Collection is one of the largest women's history repositories in the country. They hold materials from all different kinds of women's movements, from class-based movements to reproductive justice movements to working for wage and everything. And so they were able, the things that I heard back from the activists that went were a little bit about the strategy that they were able to build. Like they can, there's one organization in Boston that has built a timeline now of what has happened based on the what is not just what has been passed in the legislature. So that timeline is easy to find, but based on archival materials, like what fights have been fought and what was unsuccessful, what was successful, how things happened. They created this timeline that they can now use when they go talk to people in the state legislature. They can use it when they go talk to their donors and activists. They've created this thing because they were able to access the archives, not as researchers trying to write a paper, but as activists trying to find inspiration and trying to find a strategy. Another friend of mine who lives in Colorado still talked a little bit about, that she saw really cool ideas for things that she could do, but the most powerful thing that she brought away from it wasn't this new idea of, well, maybe I can run a campaign this way. It was that she felt more it was frustrating, and it's depressing to see materials from 1975 that are the exact same fight that we're currently fighting in 2016. That's rough. But it's also really powerful to then situate yourself in that larger history, in that larger arc of all of these people who have already been working for this and who have been doing this for so long. And you're part of something bigger than yourself then. You're part of something that matters, and you have, she said that she came away with just this, despite the fact that she was reading these stories that sounded like they could have been written yesterday, but that they were 20, 30 years old, she came away with more inspiration to keep going. She was burning out pretty hard as well, and she was able to go and spend a few days just digging into these collections, and she came away and she was ready to go again. She felt like she was re-energized and she was able to keep going. And that's, again, something that I don't know how to, I'm sure there's a qualitative measure we could create from that, but that's not something that is measurable, but that is something that has value, that has this huge, amazing, tremendous, if you will, value for activists and for organizers that are working in these movements. So in closing, archives that hold the histories of our social justice movements are already doing so much work to make sure that these stories are preserved in full. I mean, I'm going to tell you, to be honest, my archives is probably about a 90% done process. So like we've still got a lot of just traditional, regular archives work to do. But in those stacks, we hold the triumphs, we hold the obstacles, the disagreements, the fights that we've won, the fights that we've lost. As an LGBTQ community archive, most of our materials dates just back within the last 50 years. Even in that really relatively short time, our community and our movement has really drastically changed. We hold these stories, but our role doesn't need to be limited to being just a documentarian. And our audience doesn't need to be and shouldn't be limited to a traditional audience of historians and scholars and researchers. They are still our audience, but they don't need to be where we draw the line and stop imagining. The powerful successes and failures and stories of failures and successes that live in our stacks have a tremendous value to the activists on the ground. And it is our responsibility to engage with the activists that are shaping our history today here in 2016.
So hold your questions. I know there are tons of them, and Jen brought up so many really awesome things. We're going to have both the speakers, and then we're going to open it up for some questions after. I'm really honored to introduce our next speaker, Jared Drake, someone who inspires me every day to be a better professional, a better archivist, a better human. I mean, this guy does so many awesome things. I'm really excited that he's joining us here today, because I know he's highly sought after. So thank you for spending the time with us today. So Jared Drake is a digital archivist at the Princeton University Archives, where his primary responsibilities include managing the digital curation program, describing archival collections for the Princeton University Archives, and coordinating the Archiving Student Activism at Princeton Initiative, or ASAP. He is also one of the organizers of an advisory archivist for a People's Archive of Police Violence in Cleveland, an independent community-based archive in Cleveland, Ohio that collects, preserves, and provides access to the stories, memories, and accounts of police violence as experienced or observed by Cleveland citizens. In addition to those responsibilities, Jared serves on the advisory board of the Documenting the Now project, for which I'm very thankful, and also the Eugenic Rubicon, California's Sterilization Stories project. Jared earned his BA in history from Yale College and an MSI from the University of Michigan School of Information. His prior work experience includes the University of Michigan Special Collections Library, the Bentley Historical Library, and the Maryland State Archives. You can find him on Twitter at JMD Drake. Welcome, Jared.
I feel sorry. Nah, I ain't gonna put it on myself. I'm gonna do it to myself. So I'm really excited and honored to be here this morning to address this historic forum of community archivists. But I want to start by acknowledging everyone who had a hand in convening this space today, especially those who physically prepared the space, such as the maintenance workers, the janitors, and the facility staff, and all of the professors and graduate students. I see you, I value you, and I thank you. And I want all of us to thank them for the round of applause. I also want to thank IMLS and the institutions responsible for securing the grant to have this quartet of critical conversations. I recognize the labor and the time you devoted to organizing this venue. And I want to go on record personally to thank you for bringing together a dynamic group of people and asking me to speak to that dynamic group of people, especially at 8:30 in the morning on a Friday. My goodness. I'm skeptical about whether I'm the right person to get everyone woken up this morning, but in 30 minutes, you'll know one way or another. But on a more serious note, I'm also skeptical about archives. More specifically, I'm skeptical about archives in the United States. Even more specifically, I'm skeptical about archives in the United States that adhere to the standard tradition of archives in the Western world. I've spent hours and hours of my time this year and last reading, thinking, tweeting, and writing about the origins of my skepticism, while also reconciling what it means that I am so very much a part of the problem that I see in this work, and trying to advocate for the abolition of the archaic, anti-Black, transphobic, elitist, and misogynistic aspects of archival administration. But today represents a small but significant shift in that thinking. This forum is an opportunity, I feel, to pivot from breaking down and pivot towards building up. It's an opportunity to forget the oppressor and focus on the oppressed. It's an opportunity to see not only what is, but also see what can be. It's an opportunity to probe our potential and invest in our imagination. It's an opportunity to unshackle our chains and unlock our futures as humans, as community members, as archivists, and as memory workers. It's an opportunity to be free. To get us started on that justice-filled journey, I have two goals that I want to accomplish with this address. The first goal is to heighten your awareness to common characteristics of the archival endeavor that I hope community archives will avoid replicating. The second goal is to investigate the import of liberatory archives, which are a type of community archive, while focusing on two actions that these spaces have the potential to engineer: the action of belonging and the action of believing. The action of belonging and the action of believing are two of the most fundamental exercises of the human spirit, and it's my argument that liberatory archives possess the potential to engender both actions within communities whose humanity traditional archives fail to recognize and respect. So, to the first goal, I think a risk arises inevitably that in seeking to create new things, new governments, new institutions, or new archives, that the new things will in fact be lightweight versions of the old things, or worse yet, much more malicious. In other words, people and communities oftentimes will emulate the oppression from which they seek to sever, and rather than construct an institution that is truly transformative, will instead construct an institution that adheres to the hegemony, patriarchy, and paternalism laced within the logic of the institution that preceded it. I love the way Paul Gilroy, the British literature scholar and thinker, puts it during a 2007 speech given on the occasion of the bicentennial commemoration of Britain's abolition of the slave trade. When referring to the need to problematize collective memory around the British slave trade and modern capitalism and imperialism, Gilroy makes reference to William Wilberforce, who, to make a very crude comparison, is UK's earlier equivalent to Abraham Lincoln, in that he's another white man who gets a lot of credit for black freedom that he doesn't deserve. But in any case, Gilroy states about Wilberforce, quote, "We don't fix that problem of memory and abolition by shunting one great man off the stage and willing another onto it, or a great woman in the form of Nanny. We don't fix it. We have to do some damage to that idea of history. Gilroy's requirement that we do damage to oppressive ideas and not simply tinker with them makes me think of the origins of a now defunct institution in my current city of Philadelphia, Eastern State Penitentiary. At the time of its opening on October 25th, 1829, almost 187 years ago to the date, Eastern State Penitentiary sought to transform the way the world went about administering prisons. The idea behind Eastern State, which was brought forward in the late 1700s by a prison reform group known as the Philadelphia Society for Alleviating the Miseries of Public Prisons, mouthful, was that prisons should focus less on punishment and more on penitence. This emphasis on penitence birthed the new word penitentiary. But although the reformers within the Philadelphia Society thought they were setting down a truly revolutionary path and breaking with traditions of existing prison systems, such as the system in New York, their idea of prisoner penitence rested on the notion that to become penitent, prisoners must be isolated during the entirety of their incarceration. At Eastern State, inmates were allowed out of their 8 by 12 by 10-foot cells just 1 hour per day to exercise. Even then, guards escorted inmates out to their exercise yards with hoods covering the prisoners' faces, which was done to prevent any communication between prisoners, or any communication would breach the process of penitence, which the reformers believed could only happen through complete silence, solitude, and surveillance. Over the course of the 19th century, Eastern State's new approach to prison reform attracted the envy of hundreds of prisons worldwide, and in the process, it accelerated the adoption of a practice that to this very day is one of the most vile and vicious forms of prisoner abuse, solitary confinement. A project that started as a separation from the old way of doing prisons actually ended up entrenching the problems that the old way of doing prisons had caused. To move back into Paul Gilroy's analysis, Eastern State Penitentiary didn't do enough damage to the idea of incarceration. And by not doing enough damage, Eastern State would wind up doing more damage than what already existed. This brief account of Eastern State should be instructive to the work of community archives. Reformation of oppressive institutions, be they prisons, police, or archives, only yields more mature manifestations of oppression. Trying to reform rather than damage oppressive structures is like washing a wound with salt water. Relief may come momentarily, but pain will come certain. I once heard a talk from a bright young man who had been incarcerated, but since his confinement went on to college and became involved in prison education. He said, and I'm paraphrasing here, quote, "I don't believe in prison reform because I don't believe in prisons. You cannot reform oppression. There was no way to reform slavery, and there can be no way to reform prisons," end quote. As I have said elsewhere, I'm an archives nihilist. I don't, on a fundamental level, believe there is a way to reform the traditional way of doing archives. It is, to me, beyond salvage, as are a lot of its professional organizations. They are fruit of a poisonous, oppressive root, and regardless of the sweet sensation in one bite, demise is inevitable. Call me cynical, call me pessimistic, call me realistic. I call myself informed. But this dismal diagnosis of the traditional archive need not leave us despondent. Instead, we should learn from traditional archives the common characteristics of their oppression and the eclectic elements of their inequality. I think these sites are ripe for study and analysis, much like the push to study whiteness. Shout out Collier Rankin, Black women, lead the way, again. To study whiteness and masculinity, both of which I feel similarly nihilistic about. In past talks, I've discussed a range of oppressive aspects of traditional archives, and I honestly do not have the time in my day to count the amount of structural racism, classism, and all the other isms that are baked into the normal operations of traditional mainstream archives. Given that it would be impossible within 30 minutes to cover all of them, I want to delineate just 3 characteristics of traditional archives that I hope community archives will examine, challenge, and avoid. I actually already mentioned them today when discussing the vision of Eastern State Penitentiary. Those 3 characteristics are silence, solitude, and surveillance. I will breeze through my usage of these terms and highlight how each of them is ill-suited, I believe, to the notion of a community archive. First, on silence. Archivists typically invoke the term's usage in the context of the absence of certain groups of people. from the archival record. My brother, Rodney Carter, Canada, stand up, authored one of the most formative pieces of writing on the topic of this type of silence. And that piece is worth your full read after this forum. But that's not the type of silence to which I'm referring today. I'm describing instead the type of silence enforced at Eastern State, the type of silence many of us traditional archivists observe every day at work. It's the silence and the solemnity of the reading room, which we tacitly encourage and not outright require. Silence is an important exercise of control and power. By preventing or discouraging verbal communication between people, the enforcers of said silence, whether prison guards at Eastern State or monitors at reading rooms, remove our human instinct to connect with other human beings as human beings. How oppressive it is of archivists to expect users to consult documentary records that chronicle the peaks and valleys of humanity, love, hate, war, abuse, joy, humor, and display no auditory or effective response. Traditional archivists are, in that sense, no different than the National Football League in its staunch commitment to eliminate what it deems to be excessive celebration after touchdowns. Both groups, the archivists and the NFL, want thinking, loving, caring human beings to engage their humanity, but only so far. I dare say that visits to most reading rooms of traditional archives would show two common features. One, pictures of old white men, and two, silence. The patriarchy in these parts is palpable and pleased. To the second point on solitude, common practices of providing access to records in a reading room involve delivery of documents to a single researcher stationed at his, usually to his, desk, and during the entirety of his visit, he consults the contents of each box to his heart's content, rarely if ever inviting others to partake in the experience with him. In fact, in some traditional archives, if he dares to break the solitude of the performance by wanting to photograph a document and post it to a blog or social media account, he must first usually get permission from the archive to do so, or risk censure from the archive or worse. The impact of the solitude, again, another feature of Eastern State Penitentiary, is very real both for the actual users of the archive and the potential users of the archive. Actual users are impacted because they are discouraged or disallowed from engaging with the archive in a way that makes sense for them and corresponds to how people expect to share content in this millennium. Can you imagine seeing a YouTube video that you like and not having the ability to post it to your Twitter or Facebook page? Potential users of the archive are impacted because they don't get the chance to see the tweet, the Facebook or Snapchat video that never got posted due to the archive's archaic affinity for solitude and solemnity. Lastly, on surveillance. Traditional archives swim through surveillance like fish swim through water. I wonder truly if our field would be what it is without its reliance and reification of surveillance. A poignant piece on this topic is a 2002 article by Eric Kettler entitled Archival Temples, Archival Prisons, of which I also encourage a full read. But in the nearly 15 years since the article's publication, we've seen both an intensification of the United States' war on terror and an increase in incarceration rates and the number of people under correctional supervision. Both of these trends depend on surveillance, and that dependence has eroded many facets of quotidian life, such as visiting an archive. At many of our reading rooms, users of archives are often required to show photo identification, an act for which we have the data proving that photo ID requirements disparately impact communities of color, the elderly, the poor, and the rural. In addition to the photo ID requirement, users may be subject to additional search or inspection of bags. If users pass this level of screening, the archive furthers their surveillance apparatus by keeping records of the materials that users request and view in the reading room. And finally, while in the reading room, users may be surveilled by multiple staff of the archives and increasingly by closed-circuit camera. Also, while in the reading room, users are consulting records that very well may be surveilling and offering intimate details about the people and activities described in the documents. Surveillance to many archives is a narcotic. We are so addicted to the drug of surveillance. Again, this was another core pillar of Eastern State Penitentiary. That we can't see the damage it's done to ourselves, to our society, and to our neighbors. The impact of this bad habit is felt by the most disenfranchised and disempowered communities. Arab American communities, Muslim communities, Latinx communities, queer communities, indigenous communities. These communities, plus more, are enemies of a white supremacist state of which our nation is a proud leader. And thus, these are the communities most susceptible to the consequences of our dirty habit. We need to get clean and get clean soon. I'll walk you through 3 common characteristics of archives to demonstrate that, to a certain extent, the traditional ways that archives do business are in many ways antithetical to the notion of a community. So in many ways, the push for the creation of community archives is actually a coup of thinking and doing for many people who identify as archivists. Archives and archivists, as we have come to know them, don't care about community. They care about components, they care about control, and they care about capital. If community archives are to be the transformative spaces that I believe they have the capacity to be, they must not only resist the temptation to replicate these capitalist concerns, but also must establish their own sets of concerns that challenge traditional archival practices and theories. And it's that last point of establishing their own sets of concerns that transitions me into the second goal of my talk, which is to investigate the import of liberatory archives, again, one form of community archive, by highlighting 2 actions that these spaces can engender: the action of belonging and the action of believing. But before I talk about those 2 actions of belonging and believing, let me offer a definition. Actually, I said that incorrectly. Let me cite a definition. And I'm going to cite the definition of a woman, hashtag cite her work, who was written about and done a great deal of intellectual and physical labor to bring about this forum in LA and create these conversations in the field. And I have to say, as an aside, that before I submitted my abstract for the title, abstract and title for this address, I hadn't read this definition and the book chapter in which it is found. If I had, I likely would have used a different title or a different thing. All this to say, I'm speaking specifically to the self-identified men in the room and those who may be following on the live stream. If you think an idea that you have is novel or new or creative in any way, shape, or form, be assured that a woman, oftentimes a Black woman, has probably already written something on the subject, right? So do the research, do the reading, cite her work, and don't be an oppressive patriarchal jackass who are racist and undermines the work of women and folks who don't subscribe to the gender binary. Fellas, if you aren't finding the sources that speak to whatever idea it is you're interested in exploring, that isn't because those sources don't exist or haven't been written. It's likely because they haven't been cited. And they likely haven't been cited because she's a woman. Just my thoughts. Okay, back to the definition. Michelle Caswell, in her book chapter, Inventing New Archival Imaginaries, really sets a fiery foundation on which to engage this concept of a liberatory archive. Again, please read this work in full if you haven't. If you need access to a copy, holler at me, holler at anybody else who will get your copy. But once you've read the chapter in its entirety, I'm sure you'll be struck by this line that reads, and I quote, "Through the lens of liberatory archival imaginaries, our work as community-based archivists does not end with the limits of our collection policies, but rather it is an ongoing process of conceptualizing what we want the future to look like." So you see in her definition that liberatory archives are not things so much as they are processes. Understanding them, then, is not a what question as much as a how question. Let me now expand on the how question of liberatory archives and focus on 2 processes and actions for us to consider explicitly integrating into the work of community archives. The first action I want to unpack in the context of liberatory archives is the action of belonging. And to unpack that, I want to offer another anecdote about a prison, but this time about a contemporary prison with which I have direct experience. So some of you may know that I've co-taught a few semesters of college classes at different prisons in New Jersey through the Princeton Prison Teaching Initiative. Any of the students whom I have taught can tell you about my obsession with words. Besides saying too many of them and using awkward ones, I also like to explore the origins of words, a motivation likely attributed to my day job as an archivist, in which it's important that I know the origins of things. Exploring words and exploring archives, I think, complement each other quite naturally. Both are technologically arbitrary symbols of social construction that, due to their lack of inherent value, would lose all import the moment humans deem them worthless. In this sense, humans don't need words or archives. What humans do need, though, is belonging. And I teach in prisons because I belong there. Commonly held views of belonging, reflected in nearly every modern English dictionary, suggest that to belong is to be, quote, rightly placed in a specified position, or to, quote, fit in a specified place or environment. Humans are quite adept at erecting this view of the word, constantly reinforcing socially constructed boundaries of belonging. Those of us who have endured this reinforcement can recall these experiences quite vividly. My specified place became crystal clear when, as an 18-year-old college freshman at a predominantly white university, classmates would follow their initial question of, "What's your name?" with, "What sport do you play?" My specified position became ever evident when, as a 22-year-old graduate student at the same university, security guards accosted me to demand identification while I attempted to enter my very own grad school orientation along with hundreds of other white students who proceeded unmolested. My specified environment became readily apparent when, as a 27-year-old college instructor at a prison, I was forced to remove my orange polo shirt and teach in an 80-degree, non-air-conditioned classroom wearing a black zipped-up workspace jacket because orange is apparently the new, the old, and still black. I could give you these stories for days, but suffice it to say that, according to its common definition, I haven't belonged in many of the spaces I've occupied and still occupy. But to accept the common definition of belonging is to undermine the word's capacity. Its Middle English origin reveals a richer perspective, a simple contraction of the verb to long and the intensifier be, such as bewilder, bemoan, or bespeak. Quite literally, to belong is to intensely yearn or pine for something, as if yearning and pining wasn't already intense enough. I yearn and pine to teach in a prison because I serve students who, on that 80-degree teaching day, volunteered the shirts off their backs so that the sweat would stop running down my face like a leaky faucet. I yearn and pine to teach in a prison because I learned from students who, in the midst of sharing stories of their personal loss of immediate family members, prayed for the health and welfare of my immediate family members. I yearn and pine to teach in a prison because I know students who, despite the inhumanity they've encountered inside and outside those walls, dare to retain their dignity. Seeing through the eyes of my past students, to belong is to show empathy, to exude compassion, and to feel freedom. This definition of belonging invigorates and liberates, and it challenges us, it's challenged me, to imagine the world for what it might be, and not just for what it already is. This new understanding has invariably increased my capacity to imagine and, just as importantly, belong. So you may be wondering, what does this have to do with liberatory archives, community archives more broadly? The point is that too often communities, states, and governments set the terms of belonging on artificial, xenophobic, ethnocentric, queerphobic, and racist terms of engagement. The specified position view of belonging. We have a candidate for this country's highest office who's running an open campaign on belonging, and most of the white people in this country will vote for him. I hope truly that community archives do not become another site in which to play the politics of belonging, excluding aspects of identities that the majority community finds undesirable or unworthy and playing into the patriarchy. Liberatory and community archives cannot have enough intersectionality. And if you haven't heard that term before, look up Kimberly Crenshaw, another Black woman. To put it another way, let's not pretend that we are about freedom if we are really about power. The power to exercise the same violence and dominion as the white cishet men. For the case of archives, this means that we don't need Black community archives that require people to choose whether they are Black, queer, or a woman. We don't need Latinx community archives that would require the same thing. Liberatory and community archives, I think, should lean towards the Middle English view of belonging, which is a deep yearning. Who are the people with a deep yearning or pining to be in commune with that specific community? Who are the people on the margins of that community? What steps is the liberatory or community archive taking to center those on its margins? At your so-called liberatory archive, do Black lives matter or do all Black lives matter, including disabled Black lives, poor Black lives, queer Black lives, and Muslim Black lives? I've gone on at length about the action of belonging, both because it's the action I feel most passionately that community archives must get right, and because the second action, believing, is a bit more nebulous to me. But I think it's important to address it still. I want to connect the action of believing and liberatory archives by shining light on a project taking place in my city of of Philadelphia that I think is on the cutting edge of liberatory archives and community archives, even though that is not the language they invoke. As with many things about belief, I can show you better than I can tell you. A project that embodies believing in the context of liberatory archives is Community Futurisms, Time and Memory in North Philly. Led by two Black women artists who formed the collective Black Quantum Futurism, Community Futurisms is, quote, a collaborative art and ethnographic research project exploring the impacts of redevelopment, gentrification, and displacement within the North Philadelphia neighborhood known as Charleswood, Bloomberg, through the themes of oral histories, memories, alternative temporalities, and futures. The collective will operate Community Futures Lab, a gallery, resource and zine library, workshop space, recording booth, and time capsule recording oral histories and futures in North Philly. And I don't know if y'all just caught the last sentence of that quotation. They will be recording oral histories and futures. Right? This isn't an archival project that exists solely to recast the past. Rather, their efforts are about impacting the future, which can only happen if one believes there is such thing as a future, and two, believes that one's fate in the future is not fixed. What the Community Futurism Project in Philadelphia articulates is that the story on gentrification and removal in North Philly is not yet complete. Bulldozers and redevelopers be damned. Theirs is a vision of the archive that has a malleable future and a malleable past. Actually, their vision of the archive has a malleable future because it has a malleable past. The vision of BQF conceptualizes the Community Futurism Project. Quote, Black Quantum Futurism is a new approach to living and experiencing reality by way of the manipulation of space-time in order to see into possible futures and or collapse space-time into a desired future in order to bring about that future's reality. Under BQF intersectional time orientation, the past and future are not cut off from the present. Both dimensions have influence over the whole of our lives, who we are, and who we become at any particular point in space-time. There's nothing more I can add about the action of believing as it pertains to liberatory and community archives that isn't already stated here. This project exudes belief in an alterable, changeable future that is directly connected to the past. It provides an example for all of us to follow, to appreciate, to follow, and to learn from as we move forward with our respective liberatory or community archive projects. Quite literally, the Community Futurism Project in Philadelphia is reason enough to believe in the transformative power of liberatory and community archives. So I want to close in a fashion similar to which I opened. Again, I want to uplift the invisible and unseen labor required for the convening of this space at UCLA and for the later convenings in New Orleans, Chicago, and New York. In a way, one hope I have for liberatory archives and community archives is that they make seeing the unseen a regular and not radical action. Much of what is happening in our society and country right now can be traced back to a refusal to confront who we have been, who we currently are, and who we want to be. No profession deserves more blame for that refusal than archivists. Not journalists, not historians, not politicians. The archivists are the bearers of the blood-stained records of the past and the present. Yet we have been wholly complicit under the delusion of neutrality, our country's hastening descent into chaos. But here's where you come in. You, as current and future memory workers in the space of liberatory and community archives, have the ability to use your talents, your skills, and your humanity to create spaces for transformation to occur. You can convene community events in which community members are invited to enjoy the experience of connecting with the past. You can engage in practices that allow for the richest, fullest representation of those in the archival records you assemble, shifting the current mode of archives that's predicated on cold data to a mode focused on warm data, as described by Alice Roycer in the project Index of the Disappeared. The possibilities of the future before us are not inevitable. I maintain that all is not lost, and I'm convinced that our ability to act upon yesterday on today will make a difference tomorrow. I may be wrong about this, but I belong to a community of believers who say otherwise. And I'm happy to be here amongst a community of believers who share that belonging and who share that belief. So let's get free, let's get to that future, let's get to that finish line. Thank you.
inspired you are. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Kavita. I'm a PhD student from US Catholic. Derek, could you comment on how the archives developed and operated the building?
Sure. So the police office archive season invites anyone who's experienced, been impacted, or otherwise witnessed police violence for documents, narratives, videos, photographs, and police violence in Cleveland. It's explicitly a community-based archive. Citizens in Cleveland, Ohio have control of the direction and the future of the archive. It's open again for submission of anyone who identifies and feels they belong, right, that their story or records belong to this archive. And ultimately, it is an archive that is focused as much as reducing and or ending violence as much as anything, right? So that's the sort of that the society, the circumstances in Cleveland, Ohio, that pertains to police violence are not in that this thing can stop. So that's one of the ways I think that project is really sort of I mean, there's a lot more about that, and I specifically didn't talk about it today because there are a lot of things out there that we published about it, but I think that's sort of I have to give it in a short amount of time. I would characterize it.
Hi, I'm Vicky. Thank you so much for your talk. I actually think that this idea of how can our archives serve can you talk a little bit about how you do outreach to activists who might not even be familiar with archiving? Why?
Yeah, so I would be honest that this is more of an idea than a thing that I've been put in practice yet. I'm while great that has staff person, I have no contact, so my capacity is limited. If I were, and I think that I am working towards and how I'm trying to do this is it's part of the important thing is to make it accessible. So activists and organizers don't have a lot of time. We don't have a lot of funding behind them. So when you create time for archivists or activists to come into archives, it's also just bring it out to them. You can't just stay within the same walls of their archives and hang out with their materials and set up a time and hope that people come. So it's important. I think this is easier for community archives. I think in a lot of ways we are literally already implemented. So we already have a great relationship with together, have a great relationship with the organization. We invite staff to go there, we work and then and then the other kind of activists around we already know that people are already collecting materials, we're already working with them to go to their events and just to support them and what they're doing. So we go to the fundraisers, we go to fundraisers for different organizations that are doing events. So you have to become known as them, which means getting out of your comfort zone of processing that collection and spending your very precious hours with me. You don't process that collection as well as we would like to, because you have to then spend a few hours that afternoon or night going out and actually meeting where they are. So it has a lot to do with kind of, you have to kind of abandon a little bit what you expect to be doing as an archive and that archivist. You have to, because you can't do everything that's not actually possible. You're not actually superhuman, although none of us try to be. And so we have limited time, and so we would prioritize that time. So, yeah, I guess I feel like we might have. I think this does kind of play into liberatory archives as well, rethinking the things and abandoning a lot of our
Yeah, so the Commonalities archive, it really doesn't care about the researcher or the scholar of the story. That's not what the archive was created. A lot of the sort of the thinking behind it actually emanates from another one of Michelle's writings about centering survivors in the construction of human rights archives. So in terms of outreach and intended usage, actually the construction of the archive was intended to reach human rights bodies that can actually bring some sort of import or impact on situations. So in terms of connecting with community members, as the last summer you were part of taking the stories, right, of people impacted by which in itself sort of provides sort of affective response, right? So like I think typically you see people who give records to the archive as like not being like a user community in a sense. But one of the things we definitely saw in Cleveland with the oral history project was that there was actually sort of a usage people gained just by like going on the record, right? And saying that this awful thing happened. So I think that having that sort of like clear separation from the traditional assembly of the archive that invites the scholar in to like write a history or an academic quest that that follows all those sort of formularities. Something we didn't really think was an important thing for us to do.
I guess I'm interested in hearing like really concrete strategies. What is the argument to tell people that this is my archives? When activists very limited time to engage with that?
Yeah, I mean, so I think one of the things that the Gloria and Wellness School did really well was that it other than find the people who attended that spent money of their own money. Their travel was funded, their lodging was funded, their food was covered. Their organization had to agree to like let you go for like 2 days or possibly. But it was part of the program. So you make it as accessible financially as you can. And then if you I think that once, and I've found this in most activists that I've talked to, people that once you kind of get past that word archive and archivist, generally we don't know what we are. Like we're considered rebranding ourselves the history and research center because archives almost don't mean anything to people that we're actually trying to reach. So you once you start explaining what you actually have, and you kind of drop the like archivist, like that's exciting, isn't it? And they're like, oh, cool. I think my archive is great. But once you really start to talk about what you have, and I can tell that we have over 1,500 t-shirts that are really cool to look at. We have some blog pride, and we have this really cool collection from this organization that was providing services to people living in communities. And it like started this way and then it ended. And when you start to just tell the stories, we love to tell the stories that are extra stuff that's in our archives. Really good stuff. If you have a lot of really compelling and powerful stories to tell that are right there, and you have them everywhere. And so, it's just about starting to have those conversations and then also meet them where they're at. So ask them, okay, so what that you're working on passing the employee job? Cool. Like, let's, and this is going back to the questions that we have, but let's think about, like, what have people done before? Like, how did we even get to this point? Like, what in the 90s, we were raising minimum wage. What did we do? How did we get there? And have meet them in the spaces that they're actually looking for information. Like we can tell them stories about like places that if they're actually working on transformation that may not actually be relevant. Like maybe we started talking about how we got that process and like how we the civil society engaged in creating here right now. But this is one of the most communication that we reported on about that. And then isn't that like this is actually you're part of this bigger thing. And so this is
So we all know that there's really great stuff happening in that space, right? But we do have this problem of the academic library, the academic archives, space being seen as this sort of accepted, legitimized space, right, for history. And as a result, these are the spaces that we get resources to talk about, funding agencies, and all that. And that's a barrier to so how do we push back against that? We need those resources to do our work. In some cases, without that, right? But I want to get into that space and things that show that things also or actually
I don't think they hurt necessarily, but there's of course, some people may be familiar with archives quote about like the master's students can never take down a master's house. And a lot of the academic archives are, synonymous with white archives, where if you go in there, you see the people who work there, you see the people whose records are there, you see the people who walls, everybody's white, right? So like, I'm really weary of like depending on or relying on those institutions. Again, I work at institutions like that. I'm really weary of depending on them to fund this kind of work, support with this kind of work. I think that there are some spaces for them to be involved in doing different things, not necessarily collecting, but more like amplifying and giving space to places like the Archive, some of the other community archive projects to do the work they need to do. But you're right, like they sort of occupy this legitimizing space. It's like that's probably the biggest like important impact on the field, as we know it, is a lot of these research libraries that have a different goal and a different aim. But so I don't think it's they're entirely like unsalvageable spaces that have no role to play in the white supremacy and sexism, but I expect very little from them. It's been my purpose and vision is to break outside of that, and break out from the calm of what one of those spaces end up trying to do.
I would love to have a dedicated staff person who's going for archives and dedicated staff person who's primary focusing on actually doing content and talk about a collection that's from content. But like it's also, and I would also need to have the like salary benefits and stuff like that. But it's also really liberating and I think that is really important. As far as like how we actually get the funds and the resources, I do like there's gotta be a way. But yeah, so I think like it is maybe the job rather than just like subsuming archives. We've talked about different universities we can partner with in more of that way, so that we can make sure that go through our government reserve, whether they're accessible or not. Because that's like it really looks like there's a little shitty, but it's not. That's not our mission, and that's not our purpose. And so, yeah, like maybe we think something new that universities can do and actually get university systems to happen. Institutions like that, so we're happy to do lots of things that are without actually having to overlook.
Last thing I'll add is, at the very least, what universities can do is that they don't pay taxes in a lot of places. So like, if you're not paying taxes, like you need to pay, like the citizens, us people sitting here, we pay for so many things to happen in the university library, and there's no input back to that community except tax write-off. So I think it's actually one of the things that universities owe to fund these times.
I actually read
I mean, so I'm not talking all this about like things that we traditionally consider the big black photos, original minutes and bylaws, whatever. Like there are so many other things too, like that may be harder to convert, and that may be considered less reliable. So I mean, we have a strong oral history project and a strong oral history program, and that's where we fill in a lot of those gaps too of where our actually physical manifestations of that history are lacking. They were destroyed because people were afraid of certain events or because they couldn't use them or for whatever reason. But we have stories, and then we also have there are like photos, and I mean, almost lucky, because a lot of our history was photographed. Like we're not talking about really like long history where photos started out. Possibly they were. So you have the oral histories that can fill in those gaps. Then you also have like 100,000 plus photos that are mostly not identified. Like you get a few volunteers within the community for years in, and they're like, oh, that's great. Really involved in that. We don't have any material stuff for us. Kind of mentions here and there. But that means that we then have a thing we can point to and story, is that we can rely on as fact as true. Because, and this is, a kind of an issue, right? Multiple memory are faulty. So it becomes, that you kind of have to also let go of that idea that you're going to be the arbiter of the official record of history, because there's no one official record of history. And so, oral histories and relying on the community to help you fill in those gaps in whatever little connection that is.
So I actually think we're going to break now, so we can get a chance to get coffeed up and all that before the next session. But I want to thank our keynotes for this morning. Thank you for being
Those are
speaker on this session will be Joseph Omawale of the Southern California Library here in South Los Angeles. So first up we have Dr. Gilliland.
Hold on. Can you help me with these speakers now? Won't turn on. Hear it, like, just a second ago.